Good day, everyone. We are now at the last chapter of our discussion. I am Joshua M. Zamora of PICA Ed1, and I am your discussant for today's video. But before we start, I will ask a question. In the future, do you see yourself as a school head? If you are, then here are Chapter 12, the roles and competencies of school heads. Intended learning outcomes. At the end of this chapter, we should be able to know the competencies accepted of school heads as contained in competency frameworks in Philippines and Southeast Asia. As stipulated in Chapter 1, Section 5E of RA 9155, the school head is an administrative and an instructional leader. As an instructional leader, he or she supervises instruction by observing teachers while they teach, conducting post-observation, conference with individual teachers, mentoring and coaching them, ensuring the teachers have the needed resources for teaching. While physical improvement and fund sourcing is the concern of administrative leadership, the more important concern is improvement of instruction, as this has a direct bearing of learning. But school heads spend more time soliciting funds for a flagpole, stage, a classroom, pathwalk, waiting shed, and other school-needed resources, leaving no time left for instructional supervision. Activity, let's read this. List down 2 things that a school head does as an instructional leader and 2 things as an administrative leader. Based on your observations of school head, with which role is the school head more occupied? Prove your answer. The 2 things that the school head does as an instructional leader are undertaking evaluation and organizing enrichment programs. And on administrative, it is improving school and soliciting funds. I think administrative leadership is more occupied by school heads because soliciting funds consume too much time, leaving no time for instructional supervision. Analysis. Based on your list, how does an administrative leader differ from an instructional leader? In your own opinion, which between the 2 leadership roles should be given more time by the school head, and why? Administrative leadership focuses on the improvement in school, while instructional leadership focuses on improvement of teaching. For me, I think instructional leadership should be given more time because instructional leader actively promotes more effective practices in teaching and learning processes and recognizing instructional priorities rather than by serving as school manager. Competencies for school heads, the NCBSSH. In the list of competencies accepted as school heads, there are competencies for instructional and administrative leadership. It is contained in the National Competency-Based Standard for School Heads, NCBSSH, issued in Deped Order 32, Series of 2010. The NCBSSH is basically a self-appraisal tool accomplished by the school heads themselves. The school heads are asked to complete a self-assessment instrument where they identify the behaviors they have consistently demonstrated in their role as a school heads across the 7 domains. In this figure, we can see the National Competency-Based Standards for School Heads, its core principle, and its 7 domains. Core principle. School heads are competent, committed, and accountable in providing access to quality and relevant education for all through transformational leadership and high degree of professionalism. The National Competency-Based Standards for School Heads have 7 domains, and each domains have competency strands. Domain 1 is School Leadership. Its competency strands are developing and communicating vision, mission, goals, and objectives, database strategic planning, problem solving, building high-performance teams, coordinating with others, and leading and managing change. Effective leadership is the core of every successful school. This domain emphasizes that effective school leaders collaboratively create a vision and establish a climate for teachers, non-teaching personnel, and learners to reach their highest level of achievement. Domain 2, Instructional Leadership. Its competency strands are assessment for learning, developing programs or adapting existing programs, implementing programs for instructional improvement, and instructional supervision. Education reforms have created an urgent need for strong emphasis on the development of instructional leadership skills. This domain covers those actions in instructional leadership. For example, assessment for learning, development and implementation, instructional supervision, and technical assistance that school heads take or delegate to others to promote good teaching and high-level learning among students. Domain 3, creating a student-centered learning climate. The competency strands are setting high social and academic expectations and creating school environments focused on the needs of the learner. This domain, creating a student-centered learning climate, requires that effective school leaders set high standards and create high expectations for learners at the same time recognizing their achievements. In Domain 4, HR Management and Professional Development, its competency strands are creating a professional learning community, recruitment and hiring, and managing performance of teachers and staff. Effective school leaders develop the skills and talents of those around them. The Domain 4, HR Management and Professional Development, includes the nurturing and supporting of a learning community that recruits teachers based on national competency-based teacher standards and promotes the continuous growth and development of personnel based on individual plan for professional development and school plan for professional development. On Domain 5, Parental Involvement and Community Partnership, its competency strands are parental involvement and external community partnership. Effective school heads engage in shared decision, making with the community in achieving universal participation, completion, and functional literacy. The Domain 5, Parent Involvement and Community Partnership, covers parent and other stakeholders' involvement to raise learners' performance. Domain 6, School Management and Operations. Its competency strands are managing school operations, fiscal management, and use of technology in the management of operations. The Domain 6, School Management and Operations, covers the critical role school heads play in managing the implementation and monitoring of their schools, improvement plan, and annual implementation plan. And last, the Domain 7, Personal and Professional Attributes and Interpersonal Effectiveness. Its competency strands are professionalism, communication, interpersonal sensitivity, fairness, honesty, and integrity. Effective school leaders are models of professionalism and ethical and moral leadership. The Domain 7 Personal and Professional Attributes and Interpersonal Effectiveness includes the development of pride in the nobility of teaching profession. Now that we know the 7 domains of the National Competency-Based Standards for School Head, let's now identify which are instructional and administrative. On instructional, we have Domain 2, Instructional Leadership, and Domain 3, Creating a Student-Centered Learning Climate. Domain 2 is Instructional Leadership itself, and Domain 3 is part of Instructional Leadership. And on administrative, it have Domain 1, School Leadership, Domain 4, HR Management and Professional Development, Domain 5, Parent Involvement and Community Partnership, and Domain 6, School Management and Operations. While Domain 7 can relate to both instructional and administrative, since this has something to do with a teacher personhood which cannot detach from what a teacher says and does. Competency Framework for Southeast Asian School Heads 2014 edition. As a member of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, let's also take a look at the Competency Framework for Southeast Asian School Heads. These figures show the competency frameworks for Southeast Asian school heads. As you can see, it also have a domain and competency strands. Domain, stakeholder engagement. Its competency strands are promoting shared responsibility for school improvement, managing education alliance and networks, and sustaining collaborative with stakeholders. Domain, managerial leadership. Its competency strands are managing school resources and system, managing staff performance, managing sustainable school programs and projects. Domain: Instructional Leadership. Its competency strands are leading curriculum implementation and improvement, creating learner-centered environment, supervising and evaluating teachers' performance, and delivering planned learning outcome. Strategic thinking and innovation. Its competency strands are charting the strategic direction of the school, making informed decisions, and leading change and innovation. Domain: Personal excellence. Its competency strands are managing personal effectiveness, acting on challenges and possibilities, and pursuing continuous professional development. Just like the National Competency-Based Standards for School Head, Competency Framework for Southeast Asian School Head also includes domains for instructional and administrative leadership. Let us now identify which are instructional and administrative leadership. The domain on instructional leadership encompasses four competencies. Those competencies are leading curriculum implementation and improvement, creating learner-centered environment, supervising and evaluating teachers' performance, and delivering planned learning outcome. The domain that includes in administrative leadership are stakeholder engagement, managerial leadership, and strategic thinking and innovation. And personal excellence relates to both instructional and administrative leadership. Takeaways: a school head is an administrative leader and an instructional leader. A school head tends to spend less time for instructional leadership compared to time devoted to administrative leadership. An effective school head gives emphasis on school leadership, since good teaching and effective teachers are the most important factor in improved school performance. The National Competency-Based Standards for School Heads and the Southeast Asian Competency Frameworks for School Head list the competencies accepted of effective school heads. And that's all for my discussion. Thank you.